Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back. We are continuing on with this second portion of our chakra series of exploring, balancing, and engaging in our chakra system. And remember from last week, the chakras are those 7 energetic points within the body. They rise up through our spine like a column. And last week we started with the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, where we really focused on grounding down, on really embodying ourselves within the practice. And this week we'll be moving on to the Svadisthana chakra, and that is our sacral chakra. So last week when we did Muladhara, we started at the very base of the spine. Think the perineum, like the spot at the very bottom where you're sitting on the floor. So we're moving up just a couple inches today, and the sacrum is that triangular flat area on your low back and the very low spine here that we also associate with the tailbone. And when we think about what is associated with this chakra in particular, we find our desires, any sensation within the body, our urges, especially as related to the sexual organs, our emotions. And so since we are dealing with this area of the sacrum, the tailbone, we're also going to be working into the pelvis itself as well as the hips. So we will be doing some hip openers today. And when we are thinking about this chakra in terms of working our way up through the spine. So last week, like I said, we focused a lot on grounding down, on finding our roots. So when I explained that the chakras kind of work like wheels, and once one starts coming into motion and is balanced, it can start the next coming into motion for that one to become balanced out. So once we are grounded, we are ready to start the ascension process, and that begins right here with the Svadisthana. So just taking a moment to think about polarities within our yoga practice and a little bit of chakra history. So I'm getting a lot of my historical information from this really fantastic book, Chakra Yoga by Anadia Judith. It's a really great resource if you're looking to learn more. And in this book, she explains that the chakra system came about during the tantric period of yoga philosophy, and that was about 500 to 1000 AD. And when we immediately think of anything tantric related, we probably think of sex, right? Everyone's like, oh, tantric sex, maybe tantric massage. But really what we're referring to is unifying polarities. So left, right, front, back, male, female, whatever it is, this, the duality of whatever our yoga practice, things in our life. So why this is important, especially as it relates to the chakra system, is because when we are starting to send that energy upward, when the gears start turning, the energy begins to flow up and it makes its way through each chakra, kind of like a figure 8. And as that energy flows up, there's also a reciprocating energy that flows down and around. So when we're applying this to our yoga practice, we want to think specifically about the unification of these polarities as it relates to matter and consciousness. And when we refer to matter, prakriti, we're thinking about our physical body, how, our actual mass, our material selves. And purusha, which refers to consciousness, is obviously how we think, how we might be off into the ether, and how do we bring these two things together, right? So when we're really focusing on being embodied, which is what we did last week, like grounding down, finding our roots, once we feel grounded, we can think about what exactly it is that we are feeling. And this is where we start to join consciousness and feeling, right? Feeling as in the material sensation within our body. And this is important because so much of yoga is about awareness. And as we begin to make our way up through the chakra, the column of the chakra, we want to not lose sight of our groundedness, our embodiment, but we also want to bring in more conscious awareness, more from this ether that surrounds us, right? And this is where we find this balance. And this is where, we can really not just embody ourselves in the physical realm, but sort of bring the spiritual, bring the other isness, into ourselves. And that's where it gets really exciting. And we'll get into more of that as we begin to make our way through this series. So before we get started, I did mention, we're going to be working a lot into the pelvis and into the hips. And, there's kind of like this adage in a yoga practice, right? Like it's, oh, hip openers, they're the seat of our emotions. And, we're really going to get deep and let go of some stuff here. And like, what does that mean, right? Like, oh, I'm going to sit in pigeon, so I'm going to start crying. No. I mean, you can, and I have. But what this is really referring to is this area, the Svadisthana chakra. And because it is the seat of our emotions, it is the origination of our desires and our urges and anything that we might be feeling within the body. So when you're coming into a balancing practice for this specifically, it might stir up more emotions. But that's any practice, any mindfulness practice in general. So you don't have to necessarily be doing a hip opening posture. It can happen in mountain pose, for goodness sakes. So it's really just about taking that one step further from thinking about what your body is doing to thinking about what your body is feeling. So just a few associations also, if you're planning on taking this practice off of your mat, maybe doing a meditation. I have a beautiful piece of citrine here. The Svadhisthana chakra is also associated with the color orange. So it does work its way like a rainbow up through the column of the chakras here. But this is also a very energizing stone. I also have the essential oils, ylang ylang, patchouli, and clary sage in the diffuser today. So we're working our way up from feeling really earthy, rooted, grounded, to kind of bringing in a little bit more of that ether, right? We're lightening up the scent just a little bit. And again, this is associated with our sex organs as well. So it is a really great way to balance any sort of discrepancy we may be feeling around or in those areas. And that diffuser blend I just mentioned is also great for any aphrodisiac purposes. So just throwing that out there. We are going to go ahead and get started. I do recommend you have a couple of blocks today and a strap, as we will be stretching out our legs. And I also, if you are practicing next to a wall like I am, I know this space looks big on camera, but it's actually very narrow. So I just want to recommend that you pull your mat out from the wall a little bit so that there is enough room from where you are seated to extend your leg all the way to the side, because we will be coming down on our back to do some open leg twists. And on that note, let's go ahead and get started. All right, my dear friends, I am going to have you join me, recline back completely flat on your mat. I will be joining you down there in just a few moments. So take your time, come back flat, allow yourself to lengthen out through the spine, relax the arms, extend the legs, and maybe just take a few moments, shift your weight around from side to side until you start to feel grounded, until you start to feel both sides of your body just relax and begin to melt into the floor. We will, as always, be spending these first few moments here just cultivating the breath. So I invite you to soften or close your eyes and just take notice of your natural rhythm of breath. So we're not trying to force anything. We're not trying to build on the breath just yet. We're just finding some awareness with how we are feeling, how we are breathing. And before we really start to move into taking some deeper breaths, I want you to just for a moment focus your attention on this area of the pelvis. Starting at the Muladhara chakra, so at the perineum, think at the very base of the spine, maybe around your bum, like the lowest part. And I just want you to think about any sensation you may be feeling in this area. And if you joined me in that practice from last time, thinking about how we can find those feelings of rootedness, of stability, of power. And then begin to expand that awareness, that observation, to include this whole area of the pelvis. So working your way up into those outer hips, thinking about your tailbone, the sacrum, the sacral area of the spine there. Even thinking about your sex organs, just this whole grouping. We don't have to get like intimate here, but just thinking about any sensation that you are feeling in this whole area, including your legs and your feet. So in just this whole lower body, allow your mind to explore, to observe. And as we begin to slowly build upon our breath, so now we're going to take a little bit more control. I also want you to bring our mantra for our practice today into your mind as you begin to deepen and extend your inhales and exhales. And again, just 2 little words. The mantra for this class is I feel. And if you'd like to sort of deepen or incorporate this mantra with each round of breath that you are taking, as you draw in that deep, full inhale, saying, I feel, and then exhale, finish the sentence for yourself. I feel grounded. I feel at peace. Or even I feel worried, right? So whatever it is that you feel, we don't need to find any judgment. We don't need to sugarcoat it for ourselves. Whatever it is that you are feeling, go ahead and breathe into it. Each round of breath should just be a little bit longer than the previous round. So we should really start feeling some full, deep breaths now. Take 3 more rounds of this deep breath before connecting again with the natural rhythm. So take your time. Gently and slowly begin to fall back into your natural pace of breath. Taking a moment to observe how you feel. Again, we can use that mantra, I feel, and then finishing your own sentence, whatever it may be. I feel aware. I feel sensation within the body. I feel the energy building. I feel ready for my practice. I'm going to join you on my back now. And I invite you to bend your knees and flatten your feet on the mat. And just make sure your upper body is relaxed. Your spine still feels even and long on the mat. You can just maybe extend your arms out to the sides a little bit more. We're going to drop the knees from side to side. We call this windshield wipers. So just dropping them. Shoulders and upper body stay flat to the floor. Your knees don't have to reach the ground. We're just creating gentle movements along the back of the pelvis. So inhale as you bring your knees up, and then exhale as you dip them down. And then we'll bring our knees back through center. Keep your feet grounded on the mat. And then walk your shoulders down as though we're setting up for a bridge, which we will come into in just a moment. And as you walked your shoulders down, you may feel that your lower back has popped up off the mat, maybe enough for you to slide your hand underneath even. So we're going to be tilting the pelvis. So right now, if your lower back is lifted, that's completely fine. I want you to take a deep breath in. And as we exhale, pull the navel in towards the spine, tucking the pelvis and flattening that space of the low back to the mat. And then as we inhale, we're going to tilt the pelvis forward. So without lifting the bum off the mat, we're just lifting that lower back, creating that space again. You'll feel the chest slightly lift. And then exhale, tucking back down, flattening the belly. We're just going to move with the breath. We're going to do this several times. So inhale as you move up, and then exhale, tucking back down. Again, the theme of our practice today, I feel. Just notice what you are feeling. Notice what sensations are arising for you. Exhale and tuck. Keep your low back flat to the floor. We're going to set up for a bridge. So keeping that low back pressing down. On your next inhale, really ground the feet into the mat and lift the hips. Peeling the spine up. Gently engaging into the glutes. And thinking about really firming your feet to the earth here as we lift the heart and roll up onto the shoulders. Take a few breaths here. One more inhale. And exhale, gently roll back down the spine. And once your sacrum, your tailbone is back flat on the mat, we're going to keep the right foot grounded. Pick up your left foot and take the outer left ankle, place it on the top of the right knee. Keeping the left foot flexed, we're going to gently press open this left thigh so that we start to feel an opening in the outside of this left hip. We are going to be bringing the legs up into the chest, but before we do that, we're going to do more of those windshield wiper legs. So we're going to be dropping the legs from side to side, and I want you to use your right foot as the guide here. So roll to the pinky toe side of your right foot. That's going to bring your left foot closer to the ground. It does not have to touch. Inhale, flatten your right foot to the mat, bringing the legs back to center. And exhale, roll to the big toe side of your right foot, bringing the left knee closer to the ground. And we're going to move from side to side. Use your breath. And thinking about guiding this movement with your right foot. So we're not creating the movement from the hips. We're just allowing some nice, gentle movement to come into the pelvis. Keep your left foot flexed. We'll do one more time to each side. So rolling to the baby toe side. Rolling to the big toe side. And as we come back up through center, take your hands around that right thigh, pick up the foot, and begin to bring your legs into the chest. Try not to lift your tailbone off the mat. We want to keep the low back flat to the floor. And we want to keep some opening, some engagement in this left hip. So we're not closing in the knee toward our face, but opening the knee out to that long edge of the mat. Shoulders are relaxed. As you breathe and create space, you may even use that left elbow to gently press into that inner thigh to just sort of keep the knee and the hip open. It doesn't have to be big pressure, just gentle little push. Take a breath in. Exhale, right foot down, followed by the left. Drop both knees from side to side, just a couple of times. And then back in center, left foot stays grounded. We'll take the outer right ankle to the top of the left knee, keep the right foot flexed, and then gently press open the knee, starting to bring the space out into that outer right hip. This time we're going to be leading with that left foot as we drop the legs from side to side. So rolling to that baby toe side of the left foot as you exhale. And inhale back through center, grounding the left foot. And then rolling to the big toe side to bring that right knee closer to the ground. We'll do this a few times. One more time, rolling to the baby toe side of the foot. And the big toe side. Coming back in through center, we'll take both hands around that left thigh and start to draw the legs in toward the chest. Make sure that right foot stays flexed, left foot is flexed. Keep your tailbone grounded. And just breathe. Maybe even using that right elbow to gently press open the thigh a little bit more. Take a breath in and exhale. Lower your right foot to the left foot to the mat, followed by the right. And again, we're just going to drop the knees gently from side to side. So go ahead and find your straps or whatever it is you're going to be using. We're going to start with the right leg. So floating the right foot into the chest, and we did this in our last chakra class. So we're just going to be stretching out the legs, Keep that left leg extended, pressing down into the mat. And with the right knee bent, the strap around the ball of the right foot, we're going to start to extend the foot toward the ceiling, but not extend the leg just yet. What we're doing is bringing the stretch into the back of the calf by really flexing into that right foot. Shoulders relaxed. Find your breath here. And then slowly begin to straighten that right leg. You don't have to lock the knee. You can have a soft bend to the knee, but keep that energy pushing up and out through the heel. Taking the strap in the right hand close to the toes, left hand will ground that left hip as we open the leg out to the side. Couple of breaths here. We're not going to spend too much time with these stretches this week. We want to spend a little bit of time. Inhale, moving through center. Strap comes into the left hand. And then moving the leg across to the left side. Inhale through center. We're lengthening back out here. Keep that left leg pressing down. We'll take just a couple more breaths. With an inhale, release the strap from the foot, and exhale, nice and slow, float that right leg all the way down. And then soften everything. Take a breath. Left foot floats into the chest. Strap goes around the ball of the left foot. Right leg stays pressing down into the mat. And keeping that left knee bent, we'll start to extend the foot toward the ceiling, really flexing deeply here so the calf gets a good stretch. Slowly begin to straighten and extend the leg. Remember, you're going to have a soft bend to the knee. And taking the strap in the left hand, we're going to open out to the side. Keep the right hip grounded down. Inhale, move through center. Strap comes into the right hand. And exhale, bringing the leg across the body. Inhale back through center. We're lengthening out for a couple more breaths. Make sure your right leg is really grounding down as we lengthen up and back through the left side. Inhale, remove the strap. And exhale, float that left leg all the way down. You can place your strap off to the side. Soften everything. Take a breath. For this next part, you'll want to make sure you have a little bit of space between yourself and the wall if you are practicing next to one. So I'm just going to scoot over. Hopefully you won't lose me out of the vision of the camera too much here. So go ahead and float the knees into the chest. Wrap the arms around the legs. Give yourself a nice little squeeze. We're going to rock a little bit from side to side. And then we'll come back to stillness in center. And you can let your arms fall off to the side. We're going to extend the legs up towards the ceiling. Keep the feet flexed. Soft bend to the knee is okay. And I want you to take a moment and just look up towards the feet. Notice if, like for me, naturally, my left foot is pushing up higher. That means I am pressing down more into my right side. So I'm going to focus on evening out the weight on my low back and in my sacrum. So just take a moment, observe if you're feeling or noticing any little imbalances. And it's okay if you are, right? It's okay. The observation is key here. So just coming to find that balance in the low back. And sometimes balance doesn't always feel flat, right? So for me, when I observed that my left foot was pushing up and that my right hip was pushing down. So when I brought my left hip down to ground it, to find that balance between my legs, it feels a little bit, not uncomfortable, but a little bit disjointed in my back. And that's just because the position of my pelvis happens. My right hip tends to sit more forward than my left. So as we really observe the body throughout these practices, you'll notice your body's own little idiosyncrasies, imbalances, and these are the things that over time we can work to correct, but maybe we never will be able to perfectly correct them. The key is to bring mindful awareness to them. On that note, so we have our legs extended toward the ceiling, very slowly, and you can use your right hand on the outside of your right leg as a guide here. We're going to open that right leg to the side. And again, make sure there's space between yourself and the wall. So your right leg may or may not reach the floor because we're going to keep that left leg extending up. And this is where having your hand as a little support on the outside of the leg might help you come into balance here, because we're trying not, like me, trying not to lift that left hip off the ground too much. So we're going to keep our legs open like this. Hand to the outer left leg as we bring the left leg down, the right leg up. And then moving to the other side. So we're just moving nice and slow, but trying not to lift the tailbone off the mat too much. And that's really difficult with this. So you might need to extend your feet out just a little bit more. And what we're doing here is just bringing a gentle twist into that lowest area of the spine. And you're going to really start to feel some heat building, some tension building into your hips as well, and to the top of the thighs. So we'll just do this a couple more times. Left foot comes down, and then the right foot down. And then here, we'll just guide that right leg and left leg back up to center. Fold the knees, hug them into the chest. And then taking the hands on the knees, we're just going to open and circle around here. So just gentle circles with the legs. And reversing the direction, just to release any tension. And start to bring a little bit of motion into the hips. And then go ahead, roll yourself to one side, doesn't matter which. Nice big inhale, we're going to push up to a seated position. So we're going to be coming into a seated position that I don't really know the technical name for, and I apologize for that, but we call it like seated mermaid, which is kind of silly. But we're going to, and I'm not mirroring you, so just keep that in mind. We're going to keep the right foot tucked in, just as if we were sitting in an easy seat or cross-legged position, and extend that left leg, almost as if we were coming into our seated tree posture here. But then I want you to bend that left knee and guide the calf and lower leg and the back of your heel as close as you can to the back of your left thigh and your bum. So what we want to avoid, even if your leg is not flush together, what we want to avoid is the knee splaying out to the side like this, because we don't want to put any pressure on the knee here. So as close as you can, tuck your calf and your foot to the back of your leg. And then come back through center. So as we do this, sometimes it's easy just to shift all of our weight into this right side, allowing that left hip to pop up, but try to keep it grounded. We're going to be taking a nice easy twist here. So coming back through center, hands on the knees, take a nice deep inhale, Feel the spine extend upward from the hips. And as we exhale, starting the twist at the waist, we're going to twist to the right. You don't have to go too far because we're going to take a few rounds of breath here. So inhale, grow tall. Exhale to twist. And now I want you to allow this left hip to follow you as you deepen into the twist. You can allow it to pop up off the mat a little bit. Take a breath in. As we exhale, we're only going to untwist halfway. And we're going to pause when our torso is looking out over that right knee. And this is where you want to have maybe a block handy. We're going to place it right in front of our right knee. And we're going to be folding down over this right leg. And again, you can allow this left hip to follow you, but start with the hips slightly grounded. On an inhale, reach your arms up. And just hold here for a moment. I want you to think about engaging into the core a little bit here. And as you exhale, begin to extend yourself forward. Allow that left hip to pop up off the mat. And as you start to come down, you can bring the hands down first, either to the block or to the mat itself. And we're gently just resting our torso down on top of this right leg. I want you to move nice and slow. Even if you have the ability to lay down completely, I want you to ease your way into this and really think about what you're feeling as you release the weight of the upper body on top of that right leg. You can rest your forearms here on the block. You can rest your forehead on the block. Or if you don't have a block available, you can always stack your fists, bringing the head down. But we want to find a position here where we're comfortable enough to really just release. And when we talk about hip openers, so go ahead and find your spot. Start to settle into it. I'm going to talk to you just for a moment here. When we talk about hip openers, we don't necessarily want open hips, right? Because if the muscles of the hips were completely open, then our pelvis would just fall down between the legs and our whole body would collapse, right? What we want to think about is creating space, but also strength. So as we fold down and release here, I want you to allow the body to become very soft. And then I want you to start to engage. So think about that Muladhara bandha from our last practice where we start to engage those Kegel muscles. So we're not clenching, but sort of sucking energy up through our bum area. I know that's a weird analogy, but so engaging that bandha, maybe even tucking in the low belly a little bit so that we're not just completely giving ourselves into the stretch, but we're also finding that very deep strengthening practice as well. All the while focusing on the breath and what you might be feeling. We're going to come up nice and slow. You can bring your fingertips to the floor, the mat, or the block. On an inhale, we'll come up to a little halfway lift here. Hold and breathe. And then slowly start walking your hands in towards your legs, lifting the torso. Breathe in. And then exhale, come back through center, ground that left hip. And just sit with the sensation. Close your eyes or soften them. See how you're feeling. Beautiful, friends. We're going to move into the other side. So slowly straighten that left leg. Slowly straighten your right leg. Tuck the left foot in, just as though we were coming into that easy seated position. And then bending that right knee, and as close as we can, bringing the calf and the foot to the back of the right thigh. And the left foot is just going to hang out here in the inner right thigh. Move your block to the side for now, but we're going to start with that twist. And again, before we come into the twist, even though I want you to have that right hip pop off as we're twisting, ground it down just for this initial moment here as we bring the breath into the body, as we find length through the spine. So inhale, find that extension upwards. And then exhale, starting at the waist, we'll twist to the left. Allow the hip to follow. Again, we're going to take several breaths here, so ease your way into it. Exhale to take you deeper. One more breath in. And then exhale, untwisting halfway. We're going to pause with our torso looking out over that left knee. And again, our hip is popping off a little bit here. Go ahead and ground it down just for a moment. On an inhale, we'll reach our arms up. Hold for a breath. Inhale. And as we exhale, we'll extend ourselves forward, allowing the hip to pop up again. And then you can bring your hands down first, either to the mat, the block, or the floor. And as slowly as you can, keeping a slight engagement of the belly underneath, we're going to start relaxing the torso down on that left leg. So it's all about easing our way in, finding some release, and then engaging into those deep, deep muscles. And eventually coming down to that one spot where you feel as though you can hold and breathe and soften yourself. Really letting the weight of the upper body press down into that left thigh. And then start that slow engagement, engaging through that Muladhara bandha. So sucking that energy up and in. We're not clenching into the bum or the lower muscles, but we're just finding that deep engagement. A little bit into the belly as well. And remember, we don't have to hold and squeeze the bandha for the entire time, but we can relax and then engage again. So maybe that is better for your practice today than just trying to hold all at once, because we tend to hold in our breath as well. Just make sure you keep breathing and keep observing what you're feeling. As we get ready to come up, hands to the floor or the block, we'll inhale to a little halfway lift. Take a breath. And then inhale, walking the hands in. Grounding down. Exhale, come back through center. Breathe in and out. So now we're going to come into a wide leg seated position. So go ahead and extend your right leg out to the side. Depending on how much inner thigh flexibility you have, it's going to really depend on how much you want to open your legs. So extending the left leg out to the side. And I have a lot of leg flexibility, obviously, but if we don't want to be sitting in this position and just have you strain from sitting here, we want to be just feeling a very gentle stretch. So for you, your legs might be closed a little bit more. And what you're really going to focus on is keeping your back straight. Over time, as you create more flexibility in the legs and are able to open them out, the easier it becomes to keep a nice flat back. So if your legs are closing in a little bit more, definitely have a block in front of you. That's just a really nice way to bring the floor a little bit closer so you're not tempted to round your shoulders or upper back down towards the floor as we begin our fold. So wherever you're at, block is in the center. Make sure the feet are flexed. And we do want to try to engage into the legs here by engaging the quads, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to do that, because we want to keep the knees safe as well. So really, to being able to engage into the legs would be straight, pressing down into the mat. Thighs are engaged, almost as if you're pressing all of parts of the legs down into the ground and finding some lift up through the spine. But if you need a slight bend to the knees, that's totally fine. Just make sure you're incorporating that little bandha we talked about. So feet are flexed. We're going to bring our hands to the front. Maybe they're on the block. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. And the only movement here is going to be coming from hinging at the waist as we start to guide our chest closer to the floor. Feel the belly tucking up and in. We're not squeezing the abdominals, but we're just creating some support underneath from the core. And maybe we just have a little bend to the elbows here. Maybe this is enough folding down this far, because you're going to really start to feel the stretch, not just into the inner thighs, but into the outer hips as well, as we create that open space. You may be able to come down onto forearms if this is a regular part of your practice. The further down you come to the floor, the more engagement you need in the legs, pressing down into the mat to feel that extension up through the spine to make sure that your back stays flat. So there's a lot going on here, even though it looks like we're just leaning forward, right? So breathing wherever you're at. Maybe it's just hands on the block, forearms on the block. Maybe you're all the way down on the floor. Make sure you're connecting with the breath. Really find that engagement, that grounding down, and then observe how it feels. And as we get ready to come up again, we'll take hands to the block of the mat. We'll come to a halfway lift first with an inhale. Feel the belly tuck in. Hold for a breath. And then walking the hands in closer to the body. You can place your block off to the side. And very slowly, we're going to bring the feet into the center. So bending the knees. Feet are going to come in front. We'll bring the soles of the feet together, keeping the knees wide. Linking the fingertips around the baby toe side of the foot. And go ahead and just bounce your knees a little bit here. We used to call this butterfly in gym class. Just to release any tension that might be in the inner thighs. And then we're going to take a fold in this position as well. This is also a really great alternative for those of you that find a lot of discomfort in that wide leg fold. We're still, by bringing the feet together, you're still getting that stretch in the inner thigh and outer hip, but you're closing off some of the distance between the legs as well. So this is a great way to practice if you want to deepen into your wide leg fold. So you can bring the knees to stillness. And I want you to think about a nice tall spine. So engage that Muladhara Bandha. Gently tuck in the navel to the spine. Shoulders are down and back. And with a flat back, so leading with the heart, we're going to start folding forward on an exhale. We're not pulling ourselves down with the arms, but you are using the hands as a guide, bending into the elbows. And as you come down a little bit, maybe you can start to open the knees down toward the floor a little. Some of you may be able to rest your elbows on those inner thighs if you're very deep in your fold, gently applying pressure to the legs. Create a little bit more space. But again, we really want to focus on keeping the spine straight, the back flat, and a little bit of support from the belly tucking in underneath. Come back to that mantra, I feel. What are you feeling? Where can you deepen? Where can you let off? Maybe you can find more extension. And we'll come up with an inhale, so breathing in, flat back as we lift up. And exhale. Bring your hands around behind you. Slide the feet forward, keep the knees bent. And we're going to windshield wiper those legs again. So just gently dropping the knees from side to side. And go ahead and just make sure your blocks are available to you at the top of your mat. I just have to make a quick adjustment here. Things like to slide around on me. We're going to make our way into a tabletop position. And we're going to start by stretching out the wrists. So coming onto your hands and knees, fingertips face forward. We're just going to roll around the wrists a few times. So just gently circling around few times in both directions. And then we'll come to the top of the right hand, gently circle around, reverse all that stretching. And shake the right hand out. We'll come to the top of the left. And shake out that left hand. Coming back into table, we'll move through 5 rounds of cat-cow. And just a little secret here, not really a secret, but just a little fun fact. When we're coming into these cat-cow positions where we're arching and lengthening, we're also doing that pelvic tilt that we did on our backs beginning of this practice. So just keep that in mind. Think about the awareness of this area of the pelvis as we move through these 5 rounds. So inhale, find that length through the spine, pulling the heart through, looking up. Exhale, tucking the pelvis, pulling the belly up and in. And inhale, tilting the pelvis to come forward. Three more rounds. Exhale and inhale, come back through table. Start to shift your weight into your right knee, tuck your left toes, and we're just going to begin by circling out through this left leg here. So engage the belly, and we're just going to open that left knee out to the side. We call this fire hydrant. We're going to hold here for a moment, and then start to circle your knee around back, and then tuck it up into the chest. So what we're doing here is just creating a circle. So opening out to the side, circling around and down and up into the chest. So it's a nice slow movement. I want you to think about that sensation in the outer hip. And next time your knee is tucked into the chest, we're going to reverse the direction. So keeping the knee bent, sending the leg back, out, around, and in. Keep a steady breath. One more circle, we'll come back to table. Bring your knee down, go ahead and shake out your hands. Also important while we're circling on the other side, just make sure your belly isn't dropping down to the floor, but we're not clenching the abs again, we're just keeping that slight tuck into the belly. So back in table, tuck those right toes, shift your weight to the left knee. That means slightly engaging into the left glute. We're gonna open that right leg out to the side, just hold here for a moment. And then begin to circle around and come back in. Nice slow circles. Just observing and creating movement. And the next time your knee comes into the chest, we'll reverse the circle. So shifting back, around, and in. One more time. And the knee comes down. Go ahead and shake out your hands. So as we start to move through some of these next few postures, we're going to be breaking them up into left side, right side, and then moving on to the next variation. And in between that, we're not going to be doing quite a vinyasa or sun salutation, but we are going to be coming down into cobra. So it is completely up to you. I'm going to take a knees, chest, chin method from coming down from a plank and up into cobra, but if you want to come down into chaturanga, if that's within your practice, feel free to do that as well. So we're going to step from table, we're going to step both feet back into a high plank, so shoulders are over the wrists. We're nice and strong, pressing back through the heels, navel's pulling up, bums are down. I'm going to take an inhale and then exhale, lower the knees, keeping the elbows tight to the body to lower down the chest and the chin, then extending the legs back. Hands are underneath the shoulders. Inhale, press into the hands. Hips and pelvis are pressing down into the mat as I lift and pull the heart forward. Hold for a breath. Press the tops of the toes into the mat. Inhale and exhale, lower back down. Tuck the toes. Inhale, come up to table. And exhale, downward facing dog. We're gonna hang out here for a minute. So go ahead and pedal out your feet, lifting and lowering the heels, maybe shaking out the head or moving the hips from side to side if that feels good. And really finding that extension up through the tailbone. You might need a soft bend to the knees as you press the belly toward the thighs to find that lift. Pressing the hands away from the mat. Scoot your left foot into the center of the mat. On an inhale, we're going to lift and hover the right foot up. On an exhale, we're going to bend that right knee, tucking the knee in towards the chest as we shift our weight forward, and then planting that right foot to the top of the mat between the hands to ground the left knee into a low lunge. Now I'm going to be sitting forward with my hip past the knee, but if it is within your practice to keep the hip stacked over the knee, we just want to make sure whatever we do in our front leg, we're not extending our knee past our ankle. So whatever position you choose to take, we're going to be coming into a crescent lunge. Alternatively, you may have blocks here underneath the hands. On an inhale, we're going to reach our arms forward and up to frame the ears. Exhale, soften the shoulders down. So what we're going to be doing here is incorporating a back bend. But before we do that, I want you to think about really affirming your connection to the mat. So pressing that right foot down. As we lift up and pull back, I want your pelvis to press forward, and that's going to put a big stretch on the top of this left thigh. So really listen to your body. Don't push it too far. So arms are up. On your next breath in, puff your chest toward the ceiling. Press your pelvis forward, and exhale, peel the arms back. So we are lifting up and out of the pelvis. Trying not to clench the low back. Activate the glutes. Keep that right foot pressing down. Inhale, reach the arms straight up. And exhale, hands come down to frame that right foot, or again, hands to blocks. Lean forward slightly to feel that deep stretch in the top of the left thigh. And then we're going to take this left hand either to the mat on the inside of the right foot or to a block. We're going to be incorporating a little bit of a twist. Bend your left knee, bringing your foot in towards the bump. Inhale, reach your right hand forward and up, opening yourself to the side and perhaps reaching back to grab that foot. If you cannot grab your foot, that's totally fine. You can bring the hand to the hip, but just work on engaging this leg enough to keep that left foot lifted. And if this doesn't work for you at all, you can just do the upper body twist and ground the left toes down. For those of you that can grab onto that left foot, kick the foot back into the hand and slightly lean your pelvis forward. Just take a look down and make sure your right knee is not going past the ankle. And press yourself up and out of that left hand. Keep the right knee pulling in toward the center, so we're not opening it out to the side. We will be doing that in another posture in just a few moments. We want to keep the right knee closing in. One more inhale here. Exhale, release your hand from the foot. Bring both hands forward. And then gently lower that left foot to the mat. Be careful of the knee here. Keep the left toes tucked. Inhale, lift that left knee to a runner's lunge. Plant the hands. Exhale, step back to a high plank. Breathe in. Exhale, knees down. Chest down, chin down. Extend the legs back. Inhale up to cobra. Squeeze the elbows in. Pelvis pressing down as we lift the heart for a full breath in and out. In and lower down. Tuck the toes. Inhale to table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe. Move your right foot into the center of the mat. On an inhale, left leg will lift and rise. Doesn't have to go too far. Exhale, bend that left knee. Bring the knee into the chest as you shift your weight forward. And then plant or guide that left foot up between the hands at the top of the mat. Right knee grounds down for the low lunge. So hands are either on the mat, maybe they're on the blocks. Take a moment here to think about where we're going next. Lifting up and back into that crescent lunge. So either having that hip stacked over the knee or the hip pulling forward. Just make sure that left knee is stacking over the ankle. On an inhale, arms come forward and up to frame the ears. Exhale, shoulders relax. Really grounding that left foot down. Remember, we want to keep the pelvis pressing forward. Next, inhale, puff the chest to the ceiling. And exhale, peeling the arms back. So we're lifting up and out and back. Squeeze the bum gently. Inhale, lift straight up. And exhale, hands come down. Right hand to the mat or the block on the inside of that left foot. We're going to bend that right knee, sending the foot in towards the bum. Inhale, left hand reaches forward, up and around for our little twist to the side. Maybe grabbing hold of the foot. Again, maybe we just reach back and twist, hand to the hip. We can always ground those toes, right? If you do have hold of the foot, kick the foot back into the hand, press out of that right hand, and just make sure that left knee is stacking over the ankle and squeezing in toward the center. We are slightly dipping down into the pelvis here. Not an extreme dip, but a gentle lowering and pressing forward. Getting ready to come out. Breathe in. Exhale, release your hand forward. And then lower down the foot, tucking the toes. Inhale, lift the knee. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here. We're going to be building off of that for this next round. Take a moment to connect with your breath. Observe what you are feeling. Repeat your mantra. Again, moving your left foot to the center of the mat. Inhale as the right leg lifts up behind us. This time, go ahead and bend your right knee and just circle the right knee out in the air. Keep your upper body, your chest, your torso, and your arms squared to the mat. So even as we're opening the right knee to the side and circling, we're not opening our body, our upper body to the right side. And this might mean that you don't open your leg quite as far, and that is fine. Reverse the circles. And then extend that right leg back so hips are squared to the mat. Breathe in. Exhale, bend the right knee. Bring the knee into the chest, shifting your weight forward, just like we did last time. This right foot comes up between the hands and the left knee grounds once again into that low lunge. This time, bring your both hands to the inside of that right foot and heel toe your right foot out to the long edge of the mat. We're setting up for lizard. So there's a few different variations we can do here. Make sure you have a couple of blocks available. Before we start to fold ourselves down, we're gonna again circle out that right knee. So what we're gonna do here is just open the knee to the side, rolling onto the baby toe side of that right foot, and then gently moving and circling around a bit through the pelvis. Well, I guess we're shifting the pelvis back and forth as we circle the right knee, is a better way to put it. So we're just rolling onto the baby toe side of the foot and then flattening it to make those knee circles. Very gentle, slow movement. And then we'll come back through center. I'm going to give you a couple of variations here. So we can either keep that foot flat on the mat. If the foot is flat, really focus on squaring off the hips. So when we naturally come down into lizard, our right hip is going to want to pull forward and our left hip is going to want to pull back. What we're going to do is pull that right hip back, left hip forward so that the hips are square. Then we can walk the hands in front, take a slight bend to the elbows to create a fold. We can always have hands on the block. We can also bring forearms to the block. The deeper you fold, the more the hips are going to want to come unsquared. So make those minute adjustments, and the deeper you go, the slower you need to make the transition. So go nice and slow. Alternately, we can keep that right knee open by rolling onto the baby toe side of the foot. And you're going to see as that right knee opens to the side, that's going to start to square the hips off. But again, just keep your awareness on them, making sure they're even. And we can walk the hands a step or two in front, bending the elbows. We can bring forearms to the block. Some of you might be able to bring forearms to the floor. What we want to avoid here is just letting go of our belly and our pelvis and dropping it down towards the mat. So I want you to keep some engagement, that Muladhara Bandha, the belly engaged very gently, pulling up and in. So we're finding one spot where we can hold, and try to avoid dipping your head down. We're rounding your shoulders forward. We want to keep the spine straight, the back flat. Just kind of get a little bit intense. So at any point, you can come back up onto the hands, nice and slow. We'll be here for just a few more breaths. And as we focus on squaring off those hips, make sure you're not leaning into one side more than the other. It's easy to lean into that right side or the left side. So it's constantly checking in, constantly observing what is you're feeling within the body. Coming back to the mantra, finish the sentence for yourself, make those subtle adjustments. And as we get ready to come up, we'll move the hands, flatten out the foot, and very gently heel toe your right foot back into the center of the mat. Tuck the left toes. Inhale, lift the knee. Exhale, step back to a high plank, shoulders over the wrists. Breathe in. Exhale, knees down, elbows tight, chest down, chin down. Extend the legs back, shoulders under the wrists, or wrists under the shoulders. Inhale, pressing up to cobra, elbows squeezing in. Pelvis pressing down as we lift the heart. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and down. Tuck the toes. Inhale to table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe. Any little movements you might need here, feel free to make those now. Moving that right foot into the center line of the mat. On an inhale, left leg lifts. And we're going to bend that knee and circle the knee out and around. Again, upper body, chest, torso, head, and arms stay squared to the mat. Just bringing movement into the hip. Round in both directions. And then we're going to extend that left leg back, so squaring off the hips. Inhale, reach it back. Exhale, bend the knee, sending it towards the chest. Shift your weight forward. Plant the foot between the hands. Ground that right knee for the low lunge. Hands come to the inner left foot as we heel toe it out to that long edge of the mat. And just starting with those circles. So rolling to that baby toe side of the left foot. As you move the pelvis forward and back. And circle out the knee. And this is just a nice, slow, gentle movement. Continue to observe. Maybe you notice any differences between this side as compared to your right side. We generally are a little bit more tighter in our dominant side from using it so much. So just see what that difference might feel like for you, if you feel one at all. And then as we come back to center, again, we can keep that foot flat on the mat. Really focus on squaring those hips off, left hip back, right hip forward. Hands can walk in front, slight bend to the elbows. We can rest hands or forearms on a block. Or we can open that knee out to the side. Again, make sure those hips are square. And then just very gently make your way down, flat back, belly pulling up and in. Engage that Muladhara Bandha. Make sure we're not dropping the belly or pelvis down toward the mat. And finding that one spot to hold and breathe. If you do have your knee open to the side, try not to clench into the glute too much. Maybe a little bit of firmness is fine, but engage more into the foot, that support to the earth. Then into the leg, and providing that leg a nice good stretch, the hip a nice good stretch. We can find the strength from our foot, from our arms, from the belly, from those deep muscles as we engage the bandha, and from the breath. Continue to check in with yourself, making those small adjustments if you need them. And surprise, we all need them because we all come out of balance. And that is normal and fine. So coming up slowly, bringing the hands up, flattening the foot, we'll heel toe it back into center. Tuck the right toes, inhale, lift the knee. And exhale, downward facing dog, and breathe. Inhale, look to the hands. And exhale, walk to the top of the mat, folding over the feet, soften into the knees, release your upper body, and just hang out here. You can grab opposite elbows. Maybe sway from side to side. Reverse the grip of your elbows. And finding stillness, release the hands down. Inhale to a halfway lift. And exhale to fold. Really soften into the knees. We're going to roll up to stand. So upper body stays limp and hanging as we start to inhale, pressing into the feet to extend the legs. Rounding up through the spine, arms come up. Look up to the hands. Exhale, hands to the heart. Release your hands down. Go ahead and shake out your legs. So most of our practice today was going to be down closer to the mat, but I did want to get us up to stand just for a moment before we come into the very last segment of our practice, where we're going to be focusing on pigeon. And a pigeon is a very deep hip opening stretch. So if you're not feeling as though that is within your practice today, I invite you to come back maybe to the low lunge, to pigeon, or to lizard, or even where we did the figure 4 legs on our back, or even in that seated mermaid sort of twisting fold. Any of those is going to give you another really good stretch for the hips. This just takes it a little bit of a step further. So make sure you have a block or two available. We're going to step back to the top of the mat and finish off with this last segment here. Come into mountain. Affirm your connection to the earth. Power up the legs. Feel your breath. Feel the ascension up through the spine. Breathe in. I feel. And whatever it is that you feel, grounded, strong, shaky, whatever it may be, breathe into that sensation. Inhale, reach your arms out to the side and up overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward, flat back to fold, arms out to the side. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. We're going to frame the right foot. Inhale, left foot steps back, runner's lunge. Exhale, ground the knee to a low lunge. We're going to be coming into pigeon a very, very easy way today. So maybe taking a block and just having it ready underneath your right hip for when we come down. We're going to heel toe the right foot out to that left side of the mat, lowering the right knee down and lowering down your hip, maybe on the block. You can always slide it out and come all the way flat to the mat. We really want to take our time. And everyone's first inclination is to completely fold forward here, but we're not going to do that just yet, because I want you to think about where your weight is being held. So we always have a tendency to press our weight into the side of the body, so our right side where our right leg is bent. But by bringing that left hip down a little bit and engaging that left glute, we can start to find that balance. Find your Muladhara Bandha. And we're not trying to clench here, but just gently engage. And you can have a block available in front of you. Bring your hands around in front, and we're going to start to fold down here. So maybe that's, again, just taking a very soft bend to the elbows. We want to keep a nice straight back. So keep the belly tucking up underneath. Maybe we can bring forearms to the block. Find that balance between left and right sides again. Some of you may be able to bring your arms down to the mat. But before you go any farther, I really encourage you to take a few breaths just in this spot. Just because you can go farther doesn't mean you should. Keep that engagement of the core. Try to keep that left leg somewhat active. You don't need to be clenching. Just make sure it's slightly engaged. We are going to be here for 5 big breaths starting right now. You can come up at any time if you need to. So breathing in nice and deep. One more round. Getting ready to slowly lift. Bring your hands in front. Inhale as you bring the torso up. Now I want you to shift your weight into that right hip. Gently, we're moving so slow through these next few transitions. Bending your left knee, drag that left knee forward. And you're either going to come into a fire log where we're stacking the legs, or you can come into an easy cross-legged seated position. So fire log, we're going to be placing the left foot on the right knee and the left knee on the right foot. So stacking the lower leg, stacking the shins. It's okay if your knee is not flush to your foot. Mine never is. Bringing hands to the heart or hands to frame the hips, keeping the spine tall. And then just gently leaning forward if that feels good. If not, you can just stay in your upright position. It's about as far forward as I like to go. Some of you may be able to deepen the fold a little bit more. Just breathe. Come back up. And slowly, 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 we're going to extend the left leg forward, the right leg forward, keep the knees bent, and we're going to windshield wiper those legs from side to side. Should definitely be feeling some sensation, maybe even some heat in the hips, maybe even in the low back a little bit. So again, find those words. I feel ... Whatever it is for you. Try to put words to it if you can. And then bring the legs to stillness. You can cross the legs, bring the hands forward. And then step the knees back to table. Tuck the toes. Inhale. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths. I want you to think about how your right leg feels in comparison to your left leg right now. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, walk to the top of the mat, folding down over the feet. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold, getting ready to move into the other side, framing the left foot. Inhale, step the right foot back, runner's lunge, ground the knee. Low lunge. Taking that block, if you would like it, underneath the left hip as we heel toe the left foot out to the right edge of the mat. Bringing the left knee down, bring the left hip down. Slow movements. Take your time. Ease your way into it. Remain upright here. Feel where you need to adjust your balance, where you need to adjust your weight. Make sure you're not just pressing into that left side. Hands are in front. Just breathe here. Maybe engage a little bit into this right leg. Squeeze the glute a few times and release so you can find a happy medium between really clenching and just subtly engaging. And then we're going to begin the descent down. So again, maybe that's just a soft bend to the elbows. We can use a block, forearms to the block. Just however you're going to come down, please ease your way into it. You might be able to fold right down, but don't do it today. Make your way down in stages and really focus on what you are feeling. Belly is pulling up and in. The spine is long. Your breath is steady. Think about what you feel. We're going to begin those 5 rounds of deep breaths starting now. Breathing in. One more round. And slowly bring the hands in front to lift your torso. And remember, slow motion through these transitions. Please shift your weight to that left hip, bending the right knee and dragging the knee forward, either making your way to that stacked leg fire log position or into an easy cross-legged seat. Stacking the legs, right foot sets on the left knee, right knee on the left foot. Hands to the heart. Remember, your legs don't have to be completely flush here. My knee is lifted off my foot, so don't worry about that. And then if it feels okay here, keeping your nice straight spine, we're going to begin to fold forward. Only as far as your body is telling you to go. Come back to those words. I feel resistance. I feel a stretch. I feel challenged. I feel good. Come back through center. Gently, gently, gently extend the legs out. We're going to extend them all the way this time. And then just give them a nice little wiggle. Wave the feet back and forth. And we're going to get ready to wind down. So coming into the center of your mat, our half boat position, feet grounded, knees bent, arms reach out to the side, breathe in. As we exhale, we're going to start to tuck the navel into the spine and round ourselves all the way down, using as much control as you can. Head comes down, relax the arms and the legs. Think about all of the sensation you are feeling from your hips down. Really just embody that sensation. Bringing your awareness is bringing consciousness into the body. So really just observe. Take a deep breath into the belly. We'll let it out with a sigh. Slowly float the knees into the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs. Give yourself a big squeeze. Rock from side to side. From here, we can find stillness and center and come into happy baby. So keep the knees bent, grab the outside edges of your ankles or your feet, and then keeping the thighs tucked into the chest, we'll extend the feet toward the ceiling. Opening the thighs wide around the rib cage, flatten your tailbone to the floor. This is another nice deep stretch for the hips. And as long as you keep your tailbone, low back flat, you can rock a little bit from side to side here as well. And coming to stillness. Bring the soles of your feet together, keeping the knees wide, and lower the legs to the mat. And if your hips are feeling a little sore, just a little sensitive, you can support your legs in your hands. Maybe wedging a block under the legs if that feels good. Or you can take one hand to the belly, one hand to the heart, letting gravity take over the legs, relaxing the shoulders and the spine, and just feeling the breath moving through the body. Where do you feel the breath traveling? Where do you feel the oxygen? Where do you feel the energy? release your hands to the side. Inhale, bring the knees together. And exhale, extend the legs. Finding yourself in Shavasana. Tuck the shoulder blades under the back. Spine is long. We're releasing the body, allowing it to just melt into the floor. Allow your eyes to soften or close. And begin to release. Observing your natural pace and rhythm of breath. I'm going to guide you through just a few more rounds of controlled breathing before we completely surrender into this final posture. So we're going to take 3 rounds of deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. So a nice big expanding inhale. I invite you now to release completely, to see how much you can fully give yourself over to this most important part of our practice. Gently allow your breath to deepen again, bringing awareness back to the body. And a poem for you to end this practice. Svadisthana. And it was guilt that followed me, breathing down my neck. There had been days of overindulgence, cravings to satisfy, tastes to discover, sensations to lust after. Each time I gave in, I felt a tug at my conscience. Pleasure became fleeting as the internal burden stooped my spine, stole my smile, and darkened my day. Like stones collected from the ground, the weight consumed me, filling space in my soul with solid, unforgiving shame until all feelings of worth dropped away. I clenched, I shrank, I repressed. Just when I expected to drown in my own emotion, sinking beneath these waves of despair, I allowed myself to float upon this ocean. Neither sinking nor swimming, I let the tides guide me until I found stability in the shoreline. Emerging from this self-driven trauma, I felt like the newborn Venus, tentative, curious, and naked. I had left the harbor of guilt for the shores of possibility. Creative energy, no longer chained in self-doubt, blossoms like a lotus. Layers of opportunities, adventures, and passions, each experience unfolding for me, by me. And like the tide, I must learn life's rhythms. What is released must also be absorbed. As I let the basin fill, I must also let it drain. You can slowly start moving out through your fingers and toes. Rock your head gently from side to side. And using an inhale, reach and extend your arms up and overhead. And exhale, soften and release. Floating the knees into the chest. Give yourself one more hug. Come back to those words. I feel complete. I feel rejuvenated. I feel grateful for my body for allowing me to come to this practice today. Whenever you're ready, rolling to one side, using a nice big inhale, make your way up to your most comfortable seated position. Bring the hands to the heart. And if you care to join me, we'll end this practice with a round of Om. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale all the stale air. Deep inhale for Om. Excellent work today, my friends. I thank you so much for practicing along with me, and I look forward to our next lesson. Namaste.